I'm the vice president of sales here at store. I've been here almost 10 years. We have 7 account managers cover basically the entire state of Louisiana with the exception of New Orleans. 2 account managers in East Texas, 1 account manager in Southern Arkansas. That's part of our sales team, along with 3 solutions estimators, and then we have business development and director of marketing. We've been using Quadra for approximately 2 years now to work up our contracts, and it's simplified our system based on the old way. And I think it would be good to share with your audience kind of the way that we used to do the contracts and how much time that took to do that. Account managers would go out, do a site assessment, bring that information back to me, and I would have to work up each individual contract. Very time consuming, a lot of back and forth with the customer. So we changed over to Quadra, like I said, a few years ago, and it's really simplified our process. Basically, they can go in front of the client. They can capture the information while they're on site. They can actually log into Quadra while they're at the facility, bring in, have a budget conversation before you actually even take it to a contract. So I'm not really involved in that process. So that frees me up to do other things. So once they sit down in front of the client and go over the equipment that's going to be covered, the frequency that it's going to be covered, you can have that budget conversation with them before it ever makes it to my desk. So it just frees up more time for me to do what I need to be doing. So, for example, if you were going to go to a building that had 10 or 15 rooftops, right? In the old style or the old process, they would go out, capture that information in an input sheet, bring that to me. I would bring in the model and serial number into the system, work up a price. They would go back and present it to the customer. Customer would look at it. Let's say that was over budget. They would come back to me and I would change the scope. In the Quadra process, you could bring those 15 rooftops in a matter of minutes and have a conversation. Just stop and think of the time saving there. I mean, I don't have to bring in all of the information for a budget conversation. You can just bring in the rooftops, talk to them about what quarterly inspection looks like, whether or not they want us to do the filter changes or not, which that's just a click of a button in Quadra to remove that and start adjusting to fit their budget and what they're looking for. Versus the back and forth in the old system. I mean, several hours going out there to capture the information, bringing it back to the office. I work it up. It's over budget. They go back out. So it's a lot of back and forth with the customer, and it's just unnecessary. It's extremely quick. The account managers, like I said, do all of that work that I used to do. So they input all the equipment. They input the model and serial number. They already know the frequency. They've had the budget conversation with the customer. So once they get it to that point, then it's they have to get it approved internally. There's a process in Quadra where management approves internally what the gross margin is, what commission dollars are going to be paid. And then once that's done, you click a button and it generates a proposal for you right then. That's a good question. Yes, it has affected our business and our ability to get inside buildings and do site assessments, but it really hasn't, we haven't seen a decline in the contract sales from that perspective. The one thing that's good about Quadra and the process that we use here at store is we have an open book transparency policy. In other words, I encourage the account managers to open Quadra, show everything, including, gross margin, what we have in there for commissions, what we have in there for parts. You can see the time that it takes to do each task. And it's worked really well for us. And And the feedback that I have from the customers is they appreciate the fact that we'll open our books up to them. And you can adjust the gross margin right there. And as you're negotiating the contract with the customer. And the good thing about it is we've been able to do that with Zoom. Have the customer log in, go all the way through the contract, show the equipment that that's going to be covered under the contract, go through the tasking, and again, have that same budget conversation with the customer and right there, on Zoom. So basically, after you log into Quadra, this is the home screen, and you hit create and create new service contract. And it opens up this particular window where you put the customer information in. So we'll just call it a test contract. And we'll pick an address or a location. Okay. Here you can edit the site contact information. If that information is not correct for the facility, you can change it here. You can also assign it to an account manager. We don't do anything in the service level. And the default region is if you have multiple locations in different states, you can absolutely change your pricing level here. We just use one default here in Louisiana and East Texas. The start date is actually today's date. And I usually give them a couple of months to make a decision on if they're going to purchase the contract. And the type of contract is a preventative maintenance. And then you put in a start date. We'll say May 1st, and then that will end. Let's say if it's a 1-year contract. Yeah, so it'll be what, April? You can put in your billing frequency here, which we sometimes do quarterly, annual, and then you scroll down and create contract. So if I'm sitting in front of the customer and just having a quick conversation about budget, you have to bring your equipment in. So you click the equipment tab, add. So we'll call it RTU number 1. Let's say there's 5. Then here's your equipment type. So we'll call it, and here you can enter the model and serial number. Let's call it a train. And then save. So that quick, you can bring in your equipment, and then here you could go in and edit each type. So that's rooftop 1. So that will stay the same. And you go here and you can edit the description. And so on. So at that point, you can come in and take a look at your tasking. It automatically brings it in quarterly. You can change your tech assignment here. If the skill level needs to go up, you can actually click in this field, go to your skill level, change it to a senior tech and hit replace. Notice it changes everything to a senior. You can go in and remove an inspection. You can clear that field out. Okay, so here we're looking at it and we're talking about having a conversation with the customer. If the customer changes their own filters, then you're going to want to remove that from your contract. And if you notice at the top left, the hours are 42.65, but I'm going to remove the filter service. So I'm going to do not include that in our contract. I'll remove those, and notice now we are down to 29.15. Just a matter of seconds, you're taking that service out. So at this point, we would go take a look at the bid summary, make sure that everything has come in. We've got course, we're going to put commission in there for the account manager. And then you add your gross margin down here. So now you can see our price top right is $39.60, and you can adjust that right here. So at this point, this is kind of the screen that we like to finish the presentation with the client. We go over the equipment that's included, all of the tasking, and show them that this is when the task is going to take place, what month, when the stop inspection is. Then we go to the bid summary and go over the cost, and this is where we negotiate with the client. So at this point, I want to show you your team how we go into how quick you can generate the quote once you get the pricing set. So here's our contract, and you move it over here. So you select your contract here, and then you download the template. And you select, we have two agreements. One is our select coverage and one is our PM. This is a PM. At this point, you just download it. Okay, and this is in a Word version. At this point, you can make any changes. You can change the account manager. You can change the address if it happened to be in there incorrectly. You have some information about your company. It brings in all of the tasking automatically. Brings in the equipment that's going to be serviced, the included tasks that you agreed upon with your client. It's all shown here. And then the tasks that are not included. If you remember, we took out filter service. Here you can clean up your pricing, you can change your fonts, you can edit any final closing comments, and create a PDF and send it to your client. So at this point, you have the proposals ready for the customer. The customer's approved it. It's simple to go back in and so you go back and look up 241. So I'm going to show you the process of turning this into operations. So you just bring that up. And I didn't touch on this, but the approved internally means that the account manager has put the information into Quadra. I have reviewed the information, approved the gross margin and the pricing. And at this point, he receives a PO. This is how we approve it and turn it in. You come and hit the approve turn in button, and bottom right, you approve the event. You make sure the division is correct, all the other information is correct, and you hit approve. And if you notice up here in the top, it's issued and key to act already issued a number, SA number 495. This information is already pushed over to our contract administrator. It's already in the system. The tasking is in the system for the months that the client wants the tasking. No paper trail. I don't have to have a turnover meeting. The contract administrator knows this is exactly what the customer wanted. I'm just going to answer it honestly. Mm-hmm. They were a little bit spoiled before, right? Because stop and think about it. Go out, take a picture of 15 rooftops, put an input sheet, send it to Scott. I don't have to do anything until the proposal is generated. This is a little more legwork. The positive feedback is being able to have the budget conversation in front of the client. Being able to do that eliminates so many wasted hours of back and forth. That's the positive. I think that since they've gotten more comfortable with Quadra and doing the information, that they enjoy doing it more now. Nobody likes change, right? But they're more comfortable using it now. I think once you get past the initial change, and nobody likes change. So once they got past that, they're more comfortable using it now. And they're really, I encourage them to take this in front of the customer. wasted time, unpaid time is what I call it. If the customer wants to do business with you, they have the money and they have the budget, let's build the program right here in front of you. Let's sit down at a table, let's spend about an hour, and let's build this program. Again, the closure rate has definitely gone up, but I think a lot of that is we're qualifying the customer better by sitting down and having this conversation. A lot of customers we feel will say, yeah, I want a maintenance agreement, email it over, and then you don't hear anything from them. Somebody seriously that is interested in getting on a good program will have this conversation with you and sit down. So what I find is we're quoting less contracts because we're qualifying better, and we're closing more because we're able to build this to a budget. You'd be back and forth so many times with the old tool. Being able to sit down with the client and build it to a budget is improved our efficiency.